Okay, well, it looks like I'm live again. Hey everybody, Chuck Holton here. How you doing? I'm going to let a few people get on, and I'm going to grab a drink because I've been talking for an hour. Hang on. And that light was really bright too. All right, we got a bunch of people online. This is good. Thank you very much for participating. Let's pop that chat out so I can see it. Beautiful day in Maryland. All right, well, let me tell you the story about that time I just almost got myself killed in Lebanon. So it was my first trip to Lebanon, which was in 2005. And I went to Lebanon because I was on my way back from my first trip to the war zone in Iraq. And so on my way back from Iraq, I wanted to stop through Lebanon because I was writing a novel and I wanted to make some of the scenes take place in Lebanon. Actually, the whole novel, the first one, almost the whole novel, took place in Lebanon. And this was my first fiction, my first book of fiction. And so I wanted to get it right. And I did not want to try to write about a place I had not actually been to. I mean, that's a recipe for disaster, right? I mean, you should definitely never do that if you're a writer, because people who have been there will know for sure. So my thought was, I will have a stopover. At that time, to get into Iraq, you couldn't fly into Iraq because of the war going on. So that was still, it was still on pretty hot and heavy. So what you had to do was fly into Kuwait, and then the military would pick you up in Kuwait, and they would fly you into Iraq on military air. So then you come back out through Kuwait, and you fly out commercial from Kuwait. So I had been in Iraq for, I don't know, about a month with my cameraman, who actually still works for CBN from time to time. Brian Sanders is his name. And that was the first time he and I had worked together. He was also a veteran and had been in a public affairs unit. So his public affairs unit was in Iraq. And we hooked up with those guys, and they were able to open a bunch of doors for us. Worked out really well. So one of the first places we went in Iraq was, I'm telling you another story before I get to the real story. One of the first places we went was Tikrit. And Tikrit had just been taken from the Iraqi army, I don't know, not long before that, I don't think. And it was still pretty hot up there. And the U.S. military, or at least the army, had set up their headquarters in Saddam Hussein's palace in Tikrit, which was a monumental structure on top of a bluff overlooking the river. Very opulent inside. And they had just kind of taken it over, commandeered it as the headquarters. So the first night we got there, it was after dark, flew in on a helicopter, and then got off the helicopters, got in a vehicle and drove up the hill to the palace. And I just tell you this because this is a cool story too. And about the time we were getting out of the vehicle, I don't know if it was our headlights that were showing or something, but somewhere out in the city of Tikrit, somebody started firing mortars at the palace. And so we had to run inside real quick and try to take shelter. Some mortars hit the palace and kind of shook everything. And some pieces there were these gigantic chandeliers and some big pieces of the chandeliers fell down onto the marble floor, and they were Swarovski crystals. The chandeliers were made out of just thousands of these little Swarovski crystals about this big around. And I was like, well, that'd be a cool souvenir. So I scooped up a handful of them and put them in my bag. And a month later, when we got out of Iraq back to Kuwait, I went to, we had a couple days there. I went to a jeweler in Kuwait and had him fashion these Swarovski crystals into a set of earrings and a pendant. And, or wait, 2 sets of earrings and a pendant, I think, is what I had made. So I had him take 22 karat gold and, make it into jewelry. And then when I got home, that was a souvenir I brought home for my wife, and she still wears them to this day. And I mean, to me, that's just, what a cool story of a set of jewelry. If people ever say, wow, I like those earrings, where'd you get them? Well, they came from Saddam Hussein's palace in Iraq during the war. That's kind of cool. But anyway, after we left Kuwait, and we don't have any backup guy anymore. I guess he quit coming because I haven't seen him around here in this trip. So, one other story about while we were in Kuwait, because again, I'm just telling stories tonight. So, Brian and I went downtown in Kuwait City, went shopping, go get a couple scarves for the wife and some toys for the kids and whatever. And so while we were downtown, of course, we're journalists, so we're just taking pictures of whatever we see. And there were some cool, like, architecture and things like that. So we're taking pictures of this, take a picture of that. Oh, look, there's a mosque. Let's take pictures of the mosque. Bad idea. You probably shouldn't take pictures of a mosque, especially when it's just after Friday prayers and everybody's coming out of the mosque. And the next thing you know, we are surrounded by angry Kuwaitis. And they're very upset, and they're yelling at us in Arabic, and we don't speak Arabic, and they're mad that we were taking pictures. We could tell that much. So I'm like, fine, look, I've got a digital camera. I'll delete the pictures. I don't need a picture of your mosque that bad. I don't mind. If it bothers you, it's your country, I'll delete the pictures. But we had, Brian had had one of those disposable cameras that he had been carrying around for the whole trip in Iraq. And he had like a couple pictures left on it, so he just used one of them to take a picture of the mosque. And they wanted him to pull the film out and delete it and, kill it. And he was like, no, all the other pictures on this thing are important to me from my first trip to Iraq. Like, I'm not getting rid of those. And, so he couldn't just delete them. Well, these people were getting angrier and angrier and angrier. I was like, Brian, you're going to have to part with that camera. And Brian's like, no, I paid money. This thing was $8. I'm like, I'll give you the $8. Just give him the camera because they're going to rip our arms off. And they were still getting, it was getting bad. We couldn't run away. We were surrounded. They were calling more and more people over. There were probably at least 100 people out there, men, that were very upset at this point and starting to push a little bit and getting, it's bad. And so I was like, man, I don't know what to do here. So I said, Brian, I grabbed him by the shoulders and I looked him in the eye and I said, Brian, let's pray right now. And he's like, good idea. So we just bowed our heads and just started praying for God's safety over us, praying that God would save us from this mob. And everybody just kind of like stopped for a second and was like, what are they doing? Why are they bowing their head? Because, they don't pray like that. They've never seen a Christian pray. And so they were really confused, and they were kind of like just watching us, and it kind of got quiet. They just kind of quieted down, and they were just like, are they trying to decide something? Like, what are they doing? And, are they saying, beam me up, Scotty? Well, right about the time we finished praying, this Kuwaiti guy in white robes like everybody else came pushing his way through the crowd up to us, and he spoke perfect English. And he's like, "Can I help you guys? Like, what's going on here?" And so we told him, like, "Look, we're just taking pictures of the street. You know, we're tourists, and you know, we don't not mean any offense by it, but they want him to throw away his camera, but he's got a lot of important pictures from our trip to Iraq on there, and he doesn't want to give it up." And so the guy is like, you know, he turns to the Iraqis and he starts blah, 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 and they start yelling back at him, and he's like blah, 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 you know, talking to them. And Brian and I are just kind of standing there, and then he turns and he says, "Look, the reason they're upset is they believe that Americans have such advanced technology that they have cameras in America that if you take pictures of people, you can take their clothes off, you know, after you take the picture, and you can see them naked. And this guy saw you taking pictures of his wives that he was with coming out of the mosque." And I said, "Dude, if there was a camera like that, you can bet a lot of people would have one." And they would very quickly find out that there are very few people on planet Earth that I really want to see naked. You know what I mean? And I said, "Yeah, look, I get it. He doesn't want us taking pictures of his wives. I've deleted all my pictures." Brian was actually over there, so he wasn't taking pictures that direction. So he's got pictures of a different part of the mosque, but not, you know, look, can you just tell him we've deleted all the pictures of the women? And he said, okay. So he talked to them. They're kind of yelling. They're still kind of upset. And then he turned around and he said, "Look, just walk away. Just walk. I'll keep him busy. You just walk away." And we said, "Well, hey, thank you very much." And so we started kind of just working our way through the crowd. I turned around and looked back, and I couldn't see the guy anymore. And this is no joke. He just melted back into the crowd, or he was an angel sent by God. I don't know. But that was an amazing story anyway. And that was how I almost died in Kuwait before I even got to Lebanon. So then I got on a plane, and I had worked it out so that I could have a 24-hour layover in Lebanon in order to do book research for my novel that I was writing. And so I flew to Beirut, and I got off the plane. It was a broad daylight, as I remember, so it wasn't too late. But I remember as we were coming in for landing, a bunch of guys that were on the plane with me stood up in the aisle. I mean, we're literally on short and final. And these guys stood up in the aisle and started shouting, "Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar." And I thought, oh man, here we go. Oh, this is bad. And so I'm over there like in my window seat, just trying to sort of like pretend I'm not there. I'm not sure why they were doing that, but we had a safe landing. It was a little too exciting for me, but we had a safe landing. And some people are watching commercials right now. Sorry, I just noticed that. So thank you. Hey, William, I appreciate that. Thank you for all your donations. Folks, if you'd like to donate, you can do it here on YouTube, or you can go to the Hot Zone, you can go to chuckholton.com, which is my locals page. I would suggest you go there because I can put AP videos and stuff up there that I can't put on YouTube, and articles and things like that. And so it would behoove you. That's a military term that means little tiny bee feet. And I don't know what little tiny bee feet have to do with anything, but they use that a lot in the military. So it would behoove you to go and support Chuck Holton on chuckholton.com. I really appreciate it when people do that, and that helps keep me in the field and allows us to help at least 40 people we're supporting right now around the world that are needy folks here and there that we run into on our travels. So thank you for your support there. Also, you can go to the link tree that One Tired Mama just put up, and you can support us over there. Okay, back to the story. The other people probably finished watching their ad. So I came in and landed. I rented a car which was probably a mistake. Miguel C2 just asked, where's Oscar? He's on his way. He's somewhere en route, I think. The flights over here are just horrific right now. Getting into Israel is not an easy feat and not a cheap feat either. So Oscar has been trying to make it happen. I don't know that he's completely left Mexico, but he's very close. He's on his way. Should be here in a day or two. Okay, so hit the like button, please, while we're talking. Oh, you skipped your ad. That's fine. Wow, that's really nice. Jimmy the Jew from Philly, I appreciate that. So I get off the plane, I rent a car, and I go get myself a hotel in like a cheap hotel, $9 a night or something, in Beirut someplace. And what I found is the people in Lebanon, at that time especially, they have a different sense of things like safety, personal safety, life and death. I think because they've endured so many years of war and destruction. You know, they had that very devastating civil war back in the 80s, and this was like 2005, so shoot, almost 20 years ago now. What I found was that if you're not driving like you're trying to get arrested, you're going to get killed on the roads over there. I would stop for stoplights and almost get creamed by all the people running the stoplights. And it wasn't like they, going through Beirut, would, you know, be speeding toward a light. The light would turn red. They would slow down and try to look both ways and then just keep going. They just wouldn't even slow down. They would, sometimes after it got dark, they would flash their lights, but they would just keep speeding. They wouldn't even slow down. And how nobody gets killed? I mean, well, there's no way. People have to be getting killed every day on the roads in Beirut. There were no rules whatsoever, okay? At one point, I had a green light, and so I kept going at the speed limit. You know, I was going 45 miles an hour, and went through the green light, and in the middle of the intersection, a car went speeding by me going about 60 from the other direction. So I'm going this way. This car came this way, missed my front bumper by what looked like inches. It was going so fast, it just went shoo right by me. And before I could even hit the brakes, another car came by me and missed me, just went right behind me. Just pow, pow, like that. And like neither of them even slowed down for the red light. I was a wreck by the time I got to my hotel. I was like, this is unbelievable. I've never seen any place that drives as crazy as this. And I've been a lot of places. So thank you, Mark. I appreciate your donation. I'm not familiar with Lieutenant Colonel John Houck. So I got into my hotel. I just left my gear there. And then I got back in the car. It was still just, you know, mid-afternoon. So I decided to drive down to Sidon, which is, you know, figures prominently in the Bible, but it's, you know, Tyre and Sidon. It's on the water, down right on the border with Israel. And I was going down there because I wanted to set some of my book along the border between Lebanon and Israel. If you want to get that book, you can still find it on Amazon. It's called Allah's Fire. Allah's Fire. Maybe One Tired Mama could go look up Allah's Fire on Amazon and post a link. What am I drinking? I don't speak Hebrew, man, so I have no idea. I thought it was water, but a sparkling water, but it's not. It's got some sugar in it, I think, but whatever. Might be tonic water. Does anybody speak Hebrew? Does that say El Tonico Watero? There, maybe, yeah, could be. Tastes kind of like tonic water. Anyway, so I started driving down to Sidon, And I'm on the freeway, and the freeway is kind of weird because they don't really have on-ramps and off-ramps. They just have roads that come into the freeway. So it's an actual like 2 lanes and 2 lanes, 4-lane freeway. 2 lanes each way, right? But there's roads just coming perpendicularly into the freeway, and and cars, just turn right onto the freeway and then have to get up to speed, and you have to try not to, nail them, right? I mean, just chaos. So I was actually in the left lane, and I'm watching people up ahead of me as I'm going south on the road. They're coming from the west, and they want to get across the freeway, and there's no median, so they just go shoo across all 4 lanes of traffic. And it's amazing. You're like, how is it not just a 20-car pileup all the time here? This is unbelievable. So I'm in the fast lane, and I'm slowly overtaking a car that's in the right lane. And I look in my rearview mirror, and I notice a guy on a motorcycle coming up very fast behind me, but he's splitting the lane. So he's going to go between me and the car that I'm even with. And I saw him just kind of because he was going he had to be doing 90 miles an hour. I was doing 60. And he just went boom right between me and the car next to me. And as he went by, I noticed, 4 things. Number 1, he had a passenger on the back who was holding a shopping bag, like they were just coming back from the grocery store, like a plastic shopping bag. He was just holding on. Neither of them had helmets on. And he's riding a wheelie. So this guy's doing a wheelie at 90 miles an hour on a crotch rocket with a guy on the back, no helmets, with a shopping bag, and the guy in the front smoking a cigarette. And he just fall, and off he goes down the, and I just thought, that guy's got 30 seconds to live. Unbelievable. No, it should let, if you can't chat, just reload the page and it should let you chat. It's strange that you're leaving a note in the chat telling me you can't chat. I'm not sure what that means. So I get to Sidon and I drive around the areas that I've been wanting to see. And there's a lot more military presence down there, a lot more police. But by now it's about dark. So I pulled up at the waterfront in Sidon. I got out, kind of left my car and got out and walked down to the waterfront, took a few pictures, did the tourist thing. And there were kids running around and ladies in hijabs out sitting there, guys with hookahs. I remember there was a guy, I walked by and he said, "How's it going?" in English. I was like, "What? Hey, thank you for the $20. I appreciate that. And thank you, Nira, as well." In English, this guy just said, "How's it going?" And I said, "Are you American?" He goes, "No, but I lived in Philadelphia or someplace." He's just smoking his hookah pipe. I was like, I guess I'm that obvious. Like I'm not blending in very well here in Sidon, which is understandable. I mean, take a look at me. So got back in the car and I decided, I probably got about what I need, so I better get out of here. So I was trying to get back to the freeway. And somehow I just got turned around. I could not figure out how to get back to the freeway. I could see there was an overpass that was kind of over there somewhere. I could just see it. So I knew the freeway was in that direction, but I couldn't figure out how to get back on it. And so I'm driving around, and the next thing you know, I'm on a dirt road, and there's no other cars. And I'm like, well, this doesn't look great. And I come around a corner, The pro says, what are you talking about? I'm talking about how I almost died in Lebanon, and I'm just now getting to the good part. So I come around a curve in the road, on this dirt road. It's dark. It's now probably 9 o'clock at night. And there's a military checkpoint there. And there's a bunker, like a sandbag bunker. It's a permanent checkpoint. There's a sandbag bunker. There's a guy in the bunker with a machine gun. And there's a guy outside the bunker searching a car in front of me. He's going through their trunk and having them open their doors and everything like that. And something in the back of my head just started saying, this is not the place I want to be right now. And so I kind of thought for a second, and I thought, well, I'm sure those soldiers know where the freeway is, and I don't really want to go through this checkpoint, but I'll at least I'll just pull up there and ask these soldiers for directions and see if they can give me directions to get back to the freeway. I mean, I'm not afraid of soldiers. I was a soldier. I know how soldiers think, and I kind of feel a camaraderie with soldiers all around the world, so no big deal. And something in the back of my head's going, bad idea. Don't do that. Don't do that. And I'm like, what is up with, I'm just telling like, shut up. No, I don't. I'm trying to rationalize all the reasons. Like, look, it's dark out here. I really need to know. Those guys can tell me. I'll show them my American passport, and then they'll know I don't belong here, and they'll help me get home. So the guy finished with the car in front of me, and it drove off, and then he kind of looked over at me and kind of did one of these. Come here. And I put the car in gear, put it in first gear, and man, that voice in the back of my head was the loudest I have ever heard it in my whole life. It was screaming at me to get out of there. And I mean, it was almost audible. It was just so incredibly loud in my head. And so I was like, maybe maybe I shouldn't be here. And so I just put it in reverse, did a quick 3-point turn, and took off out of there. And I was like, well, that was weird. So I got down the road a little ways and came upon, I'm still looking for a way to get back on the freeway, but I saw a Kentucky Fried Chicken. Of all things, there's a Kentucky Fried Chicken on the side of the road, not like the ones you see in the States that are freestanding. This one was part of another building. And the lights are on, and it looked like it was open, even though it's like 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, well, I'm kind of hungry. So I pull over and park and get out and go inside and order some chicken. And so as I'm ordering, I find out the kid behind the counter speaks very good English. And he's like, so where are you from? I said, well, I'm from America. He said, what are you doing here? And the way he said it was kind of strange. I was like, well, I'm doing research for a book, but I said, I'm trying to get back to the freeway, and I was around the corner and there's this checkpoint. He goes, yeah, that's the entrance. And I said, the entrance to what? He said, it's the entrance to al-Hilweh. And I said, I had been doing research, so I knew what he was talking about. I said, al-Hilweh. Yeah, Ray, you weren't there. I was there. Maybe I am a bad storyteller, but I was there. This is the best I can do. al-Hilweh is a Palestinian refugee camp in southern Lebanon, right down near the border. And close to a couple of the Palestinian refugee camps where there were some major massacres that took place by the Maronite Christian militias back in the 80s, I think. But anyway, they don't like Americans, believe it or not, very much. And so I was like, oh, that's the refugee camp. And I said, could I go in there and do some research? I thought maybe he could like get me in. And so he said, no, they'd kill you. I said, what do you mean they'd kill me? He goes, no, if they saw you in there, they'd know you're not Palestinian. They'd figure you're a CIA spy and they'd kill you. And I said, so if I had just gone up to those soldiers and asked for directions, he said, they would have killed you and they would be heroes right now. They'd hang your body from, the tallest flagpole in the camp. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, I was probably 20 yards from those guys. And I had it in gear and was about to drive up to the checkpoint. And so the lesson there, kids, is always listen to that still small voice, especially when it's not so small in the back of your head. Almost every time I have gotten myself in trouble doing this job, in danger of some sort, it's because I did not listen to that still small voice. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at listening to that small voice in my head, because I realized that after more than 20 years of being a war correspondent, it's like if you hang around the barbershop long enough, sooner or later you're getting a haircut. And so I'm playing the numbers. Eventually statistics say that if you live your life in war zones, you're going to get, whacked at some point or something. And so this is why I have two rules. I try to, if I'm a little iffy about something, I will pray about it right there and then, and I will look at this picture of my wife, and I will ask myself if whatever I'm about to do is worth never seeing her again. And usually that has been enough to keep me from doing something really, really stupid. Knock on wood. I mean, I'll pray that God's Spirit will be more and more in control of me, and that I will listen to His voice always to keep me not just out of danger, but out of gross sin. Maybe on the next installment of this live, I can tell you the story about the time the prostitute walked into my room in Kenya. Or no, was it Kenya? No, it was Ethiopia. In Addis Ababa. Had a little underage prostitute that just walked right into my room one time. And I'll tell you the story about that, but that's for another day. Anyway, that's all I've got there's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Wow, Jeff. What did Jeff say? I missed something Jeff said. 2,600 are watching and only 810 likes. That's right, Jimmy. You tell them. You guys go hit that like button, please, and please subscribe to the channel. Less than 2,000 subscriptions to go to get to 100,000, and I don't know what happens then. I guess I get a plaque from YouTube or something. But it'd be really cool if you subscribed to the channel, and it doesn't cost you anything to do that. So if you have any quick questions, go ahead and ask them now. Otherwise, I'm going to go and I'm going to kick my feet up and take a rest, because tomorrow may be a very busy day. What was my order at KFC? I don't remember. That was almost 20 years ago. Maniac Mossad. Yep, almost 100,000. Maybe I should see. Michelle wants to hear the prostitute story. Unfortunately, doing this job, I have a lot of prostitute stories. I don't employ prostitutes. That's not what I'm saying. But, I go to a lot of bad places, and prostitutes are often part and parcel with bad places around the world. If you want to see a very interesting story about the prostitution in Colombia from Venezuelan single mothers and stuff, you can go watch the video I recently put up about that called, I think, Desperate in Cucuta or something like that. Or Surviving Cucuta, maybe something like that. Surviving Colombia. Anyway, it's on the channel here. You can go watch it. And I actually took a camera and walked around in what some people would have called the red light district of a very bad town in Cucuta. I say bad. I actually like Cucuta, but it's right on the Venezuelan border, and so things are pretty bad there. But anyway, I got lots of prostitute stories, just like I have lots of sauna stories that didn't turn out too well for me either. Are you coming to Nahariya? Jody says. Maybe. I was there, I don't know, 3 days ago. I drove through Nahariya, and you missed me. So if you're there, I hope you're safe. That's pretty close to the border. Hey, thank you, Cindy, Stanley, everybody. As you get older, that small voice gets louder. Hopefully, if you're smart, it does. If you're learning to listen to the Holy Spirit, my wife Donna thinks you're very handsome. Well, your wife Donna must have good taste then, Terry. I would be mourning today if we lost you. Well, you wouldn't know because that was a long time ago. But all right, so that is all I've got for today. Thank you for. Oh yeah, sauna stories. I think I've told a couple of sauna stories already. If you go look back through my channel, you can find some of those. I got so, the Thai, that's what it was, the Thai massage story. That's what I told. It wasn't a sauna story, it was the Thai massage story. And that was a terrible afternoon, let me tell you. Don't ever get a Thai massage. It'll make you confess to crimes you haven't committed yet. Question, do you think people drive crazy in third world countries because of difficulty to get fuel? No. I think it's because there's not a lot of enforcement that goes on of the laws, or the laws are just more like suggestions. Thank you there. I can't even see who that is. Somebody just sent $19.99. I appreciate that. And again, we're trying to hit 100,000, so maybe the 100,000th person, I don't even think I can figure out who the 100,000th person was. If there is a way to figure it out, that person will get something special from me. How about that? Do appreciate the donations. Thank you so much. And we will see you all again tomorrow or tonight if things start blowing up. So stay tuned. I have a live already scheduled on this channel that all I have to do is just hit go live in case things start blowing up. So if you hear that the attacks have started in Israel, come back to this channel. And very likely I will go live within moments, okay? No matter what time of the day or night it is. All right, so